Hi everyone, this is Amelia from BCPL's Parkville branch here with another natural dye lesson. Today we will be dyeing using pomegranates. Now I love eating pomegranate seeds. They are super tasty and super healthy too. However, and maybe surprisingly so, we aren't going to be dyeing using the seeds, but rather the rind of the pomegranate fruit. Now I'm going to read a brief passage from one of my favorite natural dye books in BCPL's collection, Natural Color by Sasha Dior. The pomegranate is a fruit-bearing deciduous shrub. Its fruit comes into season in the fall and winter months in drier climates. Pomegranate is native to Iran and northeast Turkey and has been cultivated throughout the Middle East, South Asia, and the Mediterranean region for thousands of years. Now another step that I'm going to be demonstrating today is how to scour fabrics. Scouring is an important part in the natural dye process because what it does is remove any impurities or waxes, chemicals, etc. that can get into the fabric in the manufacturing process. It is done in addition to washing the fabric in the washing machine and is completed before both the mordinting and the dyeing step. For this activity, you will need 2 pots that are preferably aluminum or stainless steel, a large mixing spoon, the rinds of at least 1 pomegranate, and the rinds can be fresh or dried, fabric, preferably a natural fiber, Orvis soap for scouring protein fibers like wool, or soda ash for scouring plant fibers like cotton and linen. I'm going to be using soda ash for this lesson because I am dyeing with cotton. Alum mordant is optional because pomegranate rinds actually serve as a natural mordant, so it's not imperative that you mordant. Food scale, food thermometer, strainer, and water. First things first, I'm going to prepare my pomegranate dye bath. I will be using in this lesson the Natural Colors Cookbook by Maggie Pate, which is in BCPL's collection. I will refer to both a scouring and dye recipe. Now, per the recipe, I'm going to take my pomegranate rinds. I am using the rinds from 4 large pomegranates. I'm going to put them into my pot. Then I'm going to add enough warm water to completely submerge the rinds. Then I'm just going to let that sit overnight. Now I am using both dried rinds and fresh rinds in my recipe. The amount that you are going to want to use is really going to be dependent upon the amount of fabric that you want to dye. To dry the rinds, all I do is just put them into the oven on like a cookie cooling rack on a cooking pan on a low temperature. If it's warm weather or sunny out, you can just stick them outside and that'll do the same thing. Pate's recipe calls for fresh rinds, but really either or is completely fine. So my pomegranate dye bath has been sitting overnight. It's sitting just off camera right now, but before I get to that, I'm going to want to scour my fibers to remove those waxes or chemicals that may be in them. I will need to find the weight of my fabric first. Since I want to dye some of my grandmother's antique cotton napkins, I've just taken them and put them on the food scale behind me. I can look on the food scale and see that they weigh about 1/2 pound. Now, since the napkins are cotton, that's a cellulose-based fiber, I'm gonna need to scour with soda ash. According to Maggie Pate, for every 3.5 ounces or 100 grams of fiber, add 0.5 ounces or 15 grams of soda ash. I've calculated that I need about 1.25 ounces or 35 grams of soda ash, and I've measured that out and put it aside here. Once I've done that, I'm going to add 2 cups of warm water to my pot, which I've already done. Pour in the soda ash, and then take a spoon and just stir it to dissolve. I'm not going to dissolve it all right now, just for the sake of time. But once that's done, I'm going to fill up the pot with enough warm water to completely submerge my fabric in, add the fabric, put it on the stove, raise the temperature to medium-low heat, and get it to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which is why you're gonna need that food thermometer that I mentioned at the beginning. I've already got mine clipped right here. And then once you've gotten it to 140 degrees, hold that there for 30 to 40 minutes, stirring every 10 minutes. Once that time has passed, I am going to take my fibers off the stove, let them cool to room temp. Once they've reached room temp, I'm gonna just take them over to the sink, wash it with some cold water, and then I'm gonna be ready to dye with my pomegranates. So I have finished scouring my fabrics, and I've put them aside and I'm letting them cool, and now I'm ready to start work on my dye bath. Now, if you would like to know how to mordant fabrics using alum, I'm gonna ask you to refer back to my black bean dye video, which is also on BCPL's YouTube channel, where I demonstrate how to mordant using alum. Remember, pomegranate rinds act as a natural plant-based mordant, so you don't have to mordant the fibers to get the dye to stay. I have dyed with pomegranate rinds on both mordanted and unmordanted fabric, and I'm going to show you some examples of that at the end of this video. And what the alum mordant is going to do is going to brighten your colors a little bit. However, with all that being said, what I'm going to do, I have my pomegranate rinds over on the stove. What I've done is turn the stove up to a medium-low heat or medium, and I'm going to bring it up to a simmer, hold that simmer for an hour, and then I'm going to take it off the stove to let it cool for an additional hour. And then once that's done, I'll be ready to strain my rinds and continue on with the dye bath process. So after letting my dye bath cool, I am ready to strain the rinds from the dye bath. So I'm just gonna pour the vat over the strainer that I have situated over another pot. And once all of the juices, which is our bath, strain from that, I am going to take the pot inside and transfer my scoured fabrics into it. If your fibers aren't wet anymore, go ahead and re-wet them and put them into the bath. I'm gonna turn up the stove to medium-low heat, get it to a simmer, hold that simmer for an hour, and then take it off the stove and leave it overnight for the juices, those pomegranate juices, to work their magic. And I will be back tomorrow to show you the results. So after letting the fabrics sit in the dye bath overnight, I took them out, gave them a good wash with some soap and water, and let them dry, and here are the results. So here is one of the napkins. It came out this soft sandy yellow color that I think really, to pick up the nuance, it's going to be difficult to see on this camera with the lighting. Again, there was no mordant used on this fabric, just the scouring. And this is an example of a cotton napkin that I had dyed in the past using alum as a mordant. So remember, the alum is going to brighten it. And again, I think it's going to be a little hard to see, but it came out like this soft, creamy gold color, right? So it brightened it. It gave it that gold tone. It's quite lovely. I really like this result. I've also been using those same napkins as a headband throughout this video. So just a reminder, there are many uses for these fabrics that we dye. So if you're interested in exploring other pomegranate dye recipes via BCPL's collection, check out the Handbook of Natural Plant Dyes by Sasha Dewar. The Modern Natural Dyer by Christian Vijar. And I also mentioned at the beginning of this video that pomegranates have a particular significance to Persian culture. So if you are interested in finding some of those recipes that use pomegranates, check out Bottom of the Pot Persian Recipes and Stories by Naz Daravian. And with that being said, happy dyeing!